Imagine her on the other side of the door carrying, but I couldn't. I picked up the weights now and hoisted them onto my chest. I felt my biceps trembling with exertion and watched the veins pull just under my skin. My face was blank. I was getting good at that. It was completely different from dance, where facial expression is as important as movement. But in this place, you keep it to yourself. The pain, the triumph, and let your body tell the story. By the time I got home most nights, I was too tired to do anything except eat and go to bed. Aunt Frida was always in the kitchen, often with one of the girls. I knew Beth was interested in learning some of her recipes, and sometimes I'd hear Aunt Frida's instructions, kneading, rolling dough, deep frying. "Come try this, Mbango," she said now, holding me a bowl of stew. "We need a man's opinion here." "You need a man's opinion? That's a first around here," I said, but I looked at the bowl and scarfed it down. She smiled as she watched. I smiled back as I handed her the bowl. It was okay, I shrugged, and she ruffled my hair with her small hand. For a second her warmth almost went through me. Even Joni seemed softer when Aunt Frida was around, but I couldn't let that happen to me. I needed my edge. To be on guard, I needed to be ready. I backed away. "I'm going to my room." The next day Fish didn't show up at the gym, but Alex said he'd fight me. As I got ready, I felt my muscles tighten with expectation, almost the way I felt before performance. Almost. But there was no music in my head. Someone clanged the bell, and we circled, bodies hunched, guarding against a blow, looking into each other's eyes. He threw the first punch. I raised my glove swiftly and deflected the blow. I jabbed once, twice, faking. The first jab landed on the side of Alex's face. He smiled even as his head jerked to the side. "Good hit," he said approvingly. I didn't smile back. "Ballerina boy," bounced around my head like a ping-pong ball. We circled some more. The pulse in my ears provided the beat, steadily increasing as we exchanged blows. But the refrain grew louder and louder. "Ballerina boy," and Alec became Claude, and then, for the briefest second, it seemed as if my father was there, standing outside the ring. I blinked the sweat out of my eyes and the image was gone. I was disorientated, lost. Alec first grazed my chin, and suddenly I was furious, enraged, and nothing mattered except bringing Claude down. My fists connected with his head, his chin, his chest, his kidneys, and then arms were pulling me away. Claude, no, Alec, was on the floor of the ring, doubled over and groaning. I bent over, sucking air. I'd won. It was war, and I had won. But that's not what they said when they told me to go home. They called my punches illegal and told me to get the hell out. I apologized to Alec, told him I didn't mean to go so far. But he didn't make it any easier. "You're missing the point here, Ben." As I walked home, I waited for the anger to subside, waited for my old self to come back. But it didn't. I was missing the point? Damn right I was. What was the point? Nobody was brave enough, honest enough to admit that there wasn't one. People like my dad died in stupid car accidents. Men like Henry were torn from their beds and taken away. Kids like Stan and Jacob disappeared, and nobody would just come out and say that it made no sense. A car drove fast through a puddle, and I could feel the mud splash on my clothes. I heard a laugh, maybe from the disappearing car. I couldn't tell. But it filled me with white-hot rage, like in the ring, but even more intense. And it felt good because I felt like something. My fist closed around a rock. It was jagged and cut into my skin. The next thing I knew, I was throwing it, and then another, and then another. I could hear glass shatter. It felt as if my head was going to split, open. Then there was nothing at all, until I felt my arms pinned behind my back. The backseat of the police car is not as clean as you might expect. There were chocolate bar wrappers and coffee cups, and it smelled of somebody who'd never given deodorant a passing thought. Officer Ray had wrapped my hand in a bandage and decided to take me home and send it to local juvie lockup. I wasn't sure the night in jail wouldn't have been easier than facing my mother. I could see the look of disbelief on her face as she opened the door to him. I could imagine her saying, "You must be mistaken. My son would never damage public property. My sisters would form a chorus, not Benny, not our little brother." But then Officer Ray returned to the car and deposited me, still handcuffs, on the front stoop. Every mother's dream. Her face lost all color, and for the first time I felt sick. And sick I was, all over the rosebush. Officer Ray took pity on me and removed the handcuffs. Beth led me to the couch. It was Aunt Frida I couldn't look at. It's a cliché, I know, but I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. Beth was clucking, Mad was questioning, and Joni was scowling when Mum told them all to leave. Aunt Frida followed them out the door. Mum stared, then paced. Finally she sat down on the couch beside me. I could smell my own vomit, and said I wanted to clean up. I got halfway off the couch. "No." I sat down again. The gym called. So I've been filled in on your crazed behavior there. Maybe you could pick it up after that. Sarcasm dripped from her voice. An interesting choice, I thought. I broke some windows, I think. You broke some windows, you think. The cop said it was an abandoned building, Mom. Well, that's okay then. What's all the fuss about? Can I get you something to eat? Her voice was frigid. I considered a joke about ordering a pizza, but reconsidered. I'm fine, I said instead. For the next, I don't know how long, she paced until I was ready to scream. Say something, I finally said. I don't know what to say. Her voice was shaking now. There could have been people inside that building. You could have seriously injured that man at the gym. My God, do you realize what you've done? It suddenly hit me. She hadn't asked me why. She wanted an explanation, something that might make sense of it, but she didn't want to know why. And I think I even wanted to tell her, at least as much as I was able, because I wasn't totally sure myself. But I could see from the look in her face that she didn't want to know. It horrified me and felt familiar all the same time. I'm sorry, I said instead. Sorry she didn't want to know. We're both upset, Ben. It's late. Let's finish this in the morning. I took a long shower that night. I scrubbed until the dry blood disappeared from the inside of my hands and the smell of puke had faded away. I dreaded the knock on my door, but I knew it would come, and it did. May I come in? Aunt Frida said. No, I said weakly. The door opened. I know you're tired, Ma'am Bangle. I'll only be a moment. She sat at the foot of the bed. How is your hand? Fine. I'm really just tired. I know. Too tired for a boy your age. I'm not a boy. Yes, you are, she said firmly. And I want to tell you about another boy. I covered my face with my good hand. Please, no more stories. I thought this would shut her up. But she actually laughed. Oh, pff, I have 1,000 stories. I'll tell you each and every one of them if you don't be quiet and listen. I took the hand away from my face, but I didn't smile. When your father was about your age, maybe a little older, he stopped coming to church, she began. His parents, my brother, were worried about this, afraid for his soul. Then they asked me to talk to him because they knew that Neil liked to talk to me. Also, I am a very busybody, as you know. No other stories would have interested me now. My hand was throbbing, and my head felt like a 20-pound bowling ball. But she caught me. My father caught me. So did he talk to you? Oh, yes. He told me that he was being suffocated by our ways. Has your mother told you why he visited home so seldom? Sure, she's very chatty on the subject of my father. She ignored me. Your father was an artist, Ben. He saw the world differently, as light and shapes and vibrant colors. Our people's ideas of beauties was order and symmetry and black and white. His parents didn't see an artist's life as either practical or orderly. How would he provide for a family? What has this... Psst! She silenced me. Obviously, I was pissing the old lady off. Neil wasn't understood by his own Ben. He was deeply uncomfortable in his own culture, and he refused to be limited by it. For me, I have been deeply comforted by the Mennonite ways. There is a richness there and a safety that I feel deeply in my soul. But this wasn't the case for your father. So he had to leave in order to save himself. I struggle to understand. Are you saying that I should leave? Nye, of course not. What I'm saying is that you must choose what defines who you are. The truth of who one is complex, but it's not merely good or simply bad. I believe that truth is the image of God in which we were created. But it has taken me a lifetime of experience and choices to discover this. You have to find your own way. Don't let yourself be limited by hatred, the hatred you feel. Don't let it stop your search. Huh? What is this, huh? My mom always said that people only have themselves. That's a big deal with her, self-reliance. Your mother has a lot to handle on her own. So do you. So did you, but you didn't let yourself die inside. The words shocked both of us, but she just sort of nodded. Man, living through a couple wars gave her a thick skin. Your mother and father were deeply in love. You couldn't be in a room with them and not feel it, she said quietly. It was too much. I let my head fall against the pillow. I needed sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the first thing I saw was a postcard propped on my nightstand. I recognized my dad's style immediately. It was a picture of a woman wearing a long red dress. Her chin was raised, defiant almost, but smiling, and her happiness shone through like a sun. It was my mom. End of chapter 14.